This is the Illegal Curve Hockey Show, the podcast on TSN1290.ca.
Hour number 2 of the Illegal Curve Hockey Show starts now on TSN Radio 1290 alongside Ezra Ginsberg and Dave Minuk. I'm your host, Drew Mindell. You can follow us on Twitter at Illegal Curve. We want to hear from you. You can reach us via text message. Send your text to 129090. Standard messaging rates do apply. And our website with the latest Winnipeg Jets and Manitoba Moose news and audio is illegalcurve.com.
Now, let's go live on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show hotline.
Speaking of the Manitoba Moose, we are pleased to welcome the head coach of the Moose, Pascal Vincent, back to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. Pascal, good morning. Thanks so much for joining us on the 5th of September. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me. I'm doing well, considering what's going on. I'm excited. My daughter is going back to school next week. They have a good plan, so I'm confident there. So things are as good as they could be.
That's it's good optimism. My daughter is, of course, going back to school next week as well, and I too am confident. So we'll bask in each other's confidences right now, Pascal. You know, it's obviously got to be such a unique situation because really this would be the week that training camp would be gearing up, and the season would be very close to starting. You'd be on the ice at the Iceplex and getting ready to put your troops through their paces. But obviously we know that that's not going to happen for the next couple of months. So, how are you spending your time? How are you preparing for next season's Manitoba Moose season whenever it does officially begin?
Well, right now it's a lot of watching hockey, watching as many games as I can, so we can not only watch them, but we record all of them, and you can go back and watch different systems, how teams are playing, and the adjustments on the special teams, and the way that coaches manage their bench. So it's right now it's a steady time. What we're doing right now is basically what we usually do when the playoffs are on, and we're just studying and looking at different things. So that's what we're doing, and preparing for next year. As far as players, this is not my job. My job is to coach the players I'm going to be given. So I just can't prepare myself as a coach, and that part of the year, which is now September, and usually it's. In the best case scenario, you want to be playing in June until the end, and you want to win the last game of the season and the last game of the playoffs. But when you don't, there's ways to get better, and then you attend seminars and you talk to different coaches. You make some research, you read, and then that's what I'm doing right now.
Pascal, we want to ask you about some players on the Moose, of course, but I wanted to ask you about your experience in the bubble in Edmonton. Obviously, it didn't go the way that you guys wanted it to go against the Flames, and a lot of that had to do with, injuries to Mark Scheifele, Patrick Laine, Mason Appleton. But what was it like for yourself to be in the bubble? Obviously, you've got a young family, as you mentioned earlier, but what was the whole experience like, for you, obviously considering that, the Jets didn't go as far as you wanted?
Right. So I have two lives. I have the family life, and I have, like everybody else, the professional life. And this is such a unique situation. We all went to the bubble and not knowing exactly. We had meetings and conference calls with the league, with Gary Bettman, with the people of the league telling us and showing us what it's going to look like. But once, but you didn't experience the whole thing, so you don't exactly know how it's going to work and how things are going to move and stuff. So going there, first of all, I thought the people here in Winnipeg, our trainers and our equipment people, did an amazing job at making sure we stay safe. We were being tested every day, and they did a phenomenal job at keeping everything clean, and so that was a good thing. So you go there with a feeling that it's safe. Once we got there, it was really safe. There was no way to come in or come out of the bubble for anybody else but the people in the bubble. So it was very safe. The league did a great job at keeping us safe. But for coaches, it was like Christmas time, right? So you have 3 games a day, NHL games. You can go in and out of the building, sit in a box, and then watch as many games as you want. You come back, you work with your team, you work it with your staff. You have 1 practice a day or a game, and then there's food. We had some kind of a lounge there that we had food available. It was a gym and a room where you didn't have to pack in and pack out and then, travel in between games. You were staying in the same room. So for a hockey guy, it was Christmas time. Hockey, food, a gym, and you don't have to move from room to room or any traveling at all. So that was awesome in that regard, and we felt safe. But the other side of my life, obviously, when you're away from your family, it's always difficult. So, but I enjoyed every single minute of it. Just like you said, wish we would have stayed there. Wish we would still be there. It's not the case. So we're going to work even. I don't want to say harder. I don't know if we can work really harder than what we've done, but we're going to do our best to get better.
Coach, one player you won't have next season to help your team getting better after spending 7 seasons in the organization with the Jets and the Moose is J.C. Lapon. And maybe you could just speak to what he's meant to this organization after, so many years, wore a letter for this team and what he meant for you as a coach.
Well, he's such a special person. That's the one guy. So we have quite a few of those people. They really want to play for the Jets, and they eventually end up with the Jets, and then everything that comes with playing in the NHL. And we're talking about, the caliber of the game, achieving your dream, playing in the NHL, and playing for the Jets. So for JC, it wasn't necessarily that case. He's been called up a few times. He wanted to be a Jet, and he had multiple opportunities over the year to sign somewhere else with different organizations, and he decided to stick with us because he wanted to be here in Winnipeg. He wanted to play for the Jets and do his best with the Moose, and he did. He got better. He came in as a guy that can, play well on the PK and then bring some energy on the ice. Maybe, play a tougher game when it's needed, going to the net and stuff like that. But he developed and he evolved over the years, and he was scoring goals and playing on the power play to a point where he became one of our captains and a real good influence in the room. Every year we have a test. So we bring some professionals, and our players are getting tested, and then I'm not talking about physical testings, but more mental and social testings. And JC, every year, he's one of our top leaders as far as showing what it takes with actions to be a leader, and what it takes to support each other in how he moves every day and how he practices and how he plays. So we're going to miss him a lot. But at some point, we got to, I think, to a point where JC needed to think for himself. And then I don't like to use the word selfish, but that was an opportunity for him to move forward and try something new and maybe make a little bit more money and think about his future. And I think it was the right time for him. I think it was the right decision, and I really hope he's going to be a success. I know he will be, but I wish him the best of luck because he's a good man, and he was a real good soldier for us.
Pascal Vincent is our guest on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. You're listening to TSN Radio 1290. Of course, you know that Pascal is the head coach of the Manitoba Moose. Pascal, I want to ask you about a player that maybe is a little bit I don't want to say forgotten in the eyes of Jets fans as a prospect, but maybe not top of mind, and that's Kristian Vesalainen. He spent last season his first full year with the Moose, and he put up 30 points in 60 games. From the start of the season to when the season abruptly ended, how did you see his game, transform or develop over the course of the year?
Right. So the people that would be disappointed, that's the angle I have right now listening to your question. The people that would be disappointed in Kristian would be, the disappointment would be driven by some kind of an expectation from what you've heard and what you've probably thought about is next year or so. Kristian is a young player, and he has great upsides to his game. He's a kid that went away from home at 16 years old to play in a adult league, a professional league. He had to learn on himself to cook and to do his laundry at a very young age. So there is a maturity about Kristian that people are not necessarily aware, but that goes a long way. So there's part of him is he's a man in a day-to-day life, and then when you talk to him, what do you do before a game? What do you do after a game? Why did you didn't play that game? It wasn't right. What happened? Did you do something before? Did you do something during the game? What was your mental state? And he has the answers. He knows why. So there's a part of Kristian's process where, as a hockey player, where he's very, very mature, but he's still a young man. And physically, he's a tall man. He's not necessarily the strongest yet, but we could see it over time. This year, he's getting stronger and stronger. And by the end of the year, he was on our top line and or playing the most minutes, and with Gustafsson and Reichel, and that line was not only being interesting 5-on-5 and producing 5-on-5 and playing against the top lines, but there was some chemistry between the three of them. So it's a process. It's not to evolve as a hockey player. It's not always like the guy next door, and it's everybody has their own way and their own path. I felt Kristian got stronger this year. He got physically more mature. I know the mental is right, so that's a good sign. Now it's up to him. The physical part, it's really easy. I don't want to say to fix, but to improve, because you're in control of that. Control the controllable, so he can control that, and that's something that it's going to be only up to him. How hard he's going to work in the gym, and while we don't play, and in season, off season, because the potential is there, and I have good hope. I think he's a very good person. He wants to learn. He wants to get better. He finished the season strong, so to me, it's positive.
Pascal, we wanted to ask you about Michael Hutchinson because, of course, you coached Hutchinson with the Winnipeg Jets and the Manitoba Moose. And, I just wanted to really ask you what was going through your mind watching him. He picked up the big wins in Game 5 and 6. Obviously, yesterday, that was an unfortunate overtime goal, that was scored, and the Avalanche weren't able to advance. But, what was that like for you as a former coach of Hutchinson to watch him, as a third-string goaltender and get in there for the Avalanche and pick up a couple wins?
Very happy for him. Hutch came to the Moose in a moment where he wasn't necessarily happy with the move. Same thing with Pavelek. It's kind of similar situation. We had Pav before, and then Hutch came down with the Moose and not happy, which I can understand. Obviously, everybody would. But he did it right, and he became really good, and he started to. We had a relationship with the Jets, but my job was more forwards and developing skills and stuff like that. So I wasn't really necessarily in contact or communicating a lot with Hutch. But as a head coach of the Moose, I had to. And we created a relationship that is still ongoing. We played in Toronto when he was in Toronto with the Marlies, and then we had a chat, and always happy to see him. So my point is for him to, I guess what happened is helping him, or it's helping people remembering about, hey, this guy's pretty good, and he can play, and so it's mainly for that reason. I'm really happy for him because he's not being forgotten, and hopefully it's going to give him a chance to get back as a regular in the NHL. But I'm really happy for him. Hutch is a good man, and I wish him the best.
You know, Coach, the Jets have loaned out some of the players you could be having on your team next season, and David Gustafson's going to be starting next year in Sweden. You've got Ville Heinola, and now Leon Gawanke just signed in Berlin. So we know those guys are going to be playing next, whenever their seasons start overseas. But for the guys who aren't, playing yet, what kind of regiment are they going to have in place to be ready to go when everything is, starting again, potentially in December?
Well, it's really we're asking for our players to be accountable right now. If you can't play, you got to find a way to get better, and we're all different. I'm here in Winnipeg and trying to find a way to get better. If you're anywhere on the planet, you have to find a way to get better, and then we're asking them to be, like I said, staying positive, control the controllables, and trying to find a way to get better. And there's if you do it right, and there's some ice sessions that are available pretty much everywhere, limited people, but you can go on the ice, you can work on your skills, you can go. Most of those guys have access to a gym where it can be very safe. Get in there and prepare yourself the best you can, and it's going to be up to them to make those efforts and to show how bad they want to play for the Moose and the Jets next year. And because everything right now is so different, we have to adjust. We can't expect to do what we usually do because it's not an option. We have to adapt. We have to adjust, and the people that will have to, or the people that did that, just adjusting and adapting to the situation, they will show up at camp and be in a better position to stick around. But right now we're and it's going to be a good evaluation. I'm not changing the subject, but it's going to be a good evaluation for us as far as who really took the time to invest in themselves and show up at camp in the proper physical and mental condition.
Pascal Vincent is the head coach of the Manitoba Moose. Pascal, we appreciate your time and insight as always. Thanks so much for joining us this morning on the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. All the best in the continued off-season, and hopefully we'll see you at the rink sooner rather than later.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Take care, Pascal. Thanks very much. When we come back, we look at the Bodog.net scoreboard. We update you on the Game 7s from last night and much more to come. We want your comments. We want your feedback on Twitter and by text. You're listening to the Illegal Curve Hockey Show. We are live on TSN Radio 1290.